Welcome to today's explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating piece of writing today. Now, when you hear the title of our source material, your brain probably goes straight to danger, international espionage, or, a massive cinematic superhero universe. But the creator actually describes this work as a romantic superhero-style tribute. We're going to walk through the poem Black Widow by Denis Martindale and track a highly unique journey from the literal first glance all the way to a life-changing conclusion. Right off the bat, there's this stark, honestly kind of hilarious contrast at play here. When we hear Black Widow, we instantly picture a deadly assassin or a highly venomous lethal spider, right? Yet, our source text explicitly frames this poem as a gently blossoming true love story. The author takes this famously intense, high-stakes title and completely flips it to package an incredibly wholesome romance. It's a really clever juxtaposition. Section 1. The Superhero Tribute Context. Framing an origin story. Section 2, First Sight and Shyness, the inciting incident. Okay, so every great hero needs an origin story, right? And that always starts with an inciting incident. The poem reads, "When I first spied her, I felt glad. Her smile impressed me most." Notice the undeniable, immediate impact of her smile. The narrator is struck right then and there. He's entirely engrossed by these sudden, rushing thoughts of love. It all stems from just one single, powerful glance. But as we know, every hero's journey absolutely requires an obstacle. So would his shyness ultimately win? The narrator readily confesses his hesitation, which introduces this immediate internal conflict. The source tells us he gulps and he sighs. However, he also establishes a clear, high-stakes goal right out of the gate. He hopes that if he can just see things through, push past those nerves, she might actually become his bride. From that initial glance, things really begin to build. They share a smile, establishing a real connection, and that leads to warm evenings under dimming moonlight, making each kiss sublime. Eventually, they're dating steadily, walking hand in hand. The poem explicitly argues that romance is way more than just sudden whims. It actually requires both people to deliberately take their time. Despite a sudden, trembling dread, would chatting prove enough? Even in a poem that's framed as a superhero tribute, we see this deeply universal, incredibly relatable vulnerability of making the first move. The narrator admits he can't even remember what he said. That perfectly captures that heart-pounding, absolute dread of asking someone out for the first time. We've all been there, for sure. Section 3. Courtship and Scarlet Necklaces, the action montage. So, our hero pushes past his dread, and the courtship becomes incredibly deliberate. Think of this as the action montage of the story. He starts with a single rose portraying his dreams, then a scarlet necklace, which, by the way, is a fantastic subtle tieback to that crimson Black Widow aesthetic. Finally, he uses penned poems specifically to flirt. The narrator actively avoids extremes, favoring this remarkably measured, steady courtship. It's a really grounded approach. This steady courtship leads to a pivotal transition in their dynamic. He moves to declaring he was more than fond, not simply as a friend. This is it. This is the moment of testing the waters, elevating the relationship from friendly chats to confessing deeper, romantic feelings. He flirts with her through his poetry, and the text specifically notes that she actively responds to those poems. The connection here is entirely mutual. Section 4. 4 life-changing words. The climax. Every superhero narrative has to build to a definitive climax where true feelings are put on the line. For our narrator, the whole shebang comes down to exactly 4 words. One day, down on one knee, he just simply can't help himself. Will you marry me? This is the proposal that changes absolutely everything in our narrative. After pushing through that trembling dread we talked about and navigating all those dates, he literally goes for the ultimate prize in his quest. And we get the ultimate payoff. Enough said. She's now my wife. Very soon after that proposal, they were wed. The narrator's emotional journey, from a guy who was literally too nervous to even remember what he said, to a confident husband, ends in total victory. The origin story is officially complete. But wait, actually, scratch that. The story isn't quite over. There is a totally fascinating detail in the poem's sign-off. It reads, Denis Martindale, for the 14th of May, 2026. Depending on when you're listening to this explainer, that date is likely situated entirely in the future. It adds this completely surprising, almost sci-fi twist to the very end of our superhero tribute. So what does this all mean? Is this a futuristic projection? A set wedding date? Or just the ultimate sci-fi superhero romance twist? Why did the poet specifically look forward to this exact date in 2026 to consummate this Black Widow tribute? It completely reframes our entire analysis. What do you think the 14th of May holds? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring those fascinating twists.